Hello, boxing fans. Thank you for joining us once again on Talkin Fight for another episode of Boxing News Today, where we go around the world, courtesy of our friends over at boxing247.com, and find out what's happening in the world of boxing. Let's start off with a bit of news out of New Mexico. Hello, boxing fans around the world. Thanks for joining us once again on Talkin Fight for another episode of Boxing News Today, where we go around the world, courtesy of our friends at boxing247.com, and find out what's happening in the world of boxing. Today, we're going to start off with a story out of New Mexico. Two Mexican boxing legends will put on the gloves for one last night when Hall of Famer Marco Antonio Barrera, who's 67-7 with 44 knockouts, returns to the ring for the second time in more than a decade to face the former twice world champion Daniel Ponce de León, who's 45-7 with 35 knockouts, in a six-round exhibition bout on November 20th at the Inn of the Mountain Gods Resort and Casino in New Mexico. In the co-main event, undefeated lightweight Abel Mendoza, who's 30-0 with 23 knockouts from El Paso, Texas, hopes to keep intact his perfect record against Mexican Victor Zalita, who's 25-1 with 10 knockouts in a 10-rounder. Rounding out the pay-per-view card will be welterweight showdown between the undefeated Clinton Chavez, who's 5-0 with 4 knockouts, and Christian Castillo, who's 3-1 with 3 knockouts. All right, that'll be a lot of fun for those people down in New Mexico and apparently on some pay-per-view channel as well. Elsewhere in the Midwest, we see Devin Haney going up against Joseph JoJo Diaz Jr. Devin Haney, who we featured quite often on Talkin Fight, will defend his WBC World Lightweight title against Joseph JoJo Diaz Jr., the WBC Interim World Lightweight Champion, at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, on Saturday, December 4th, live worldwide on DAZN. Unbeaten superstar Haney, who's 26-0 with 15 knockouts, puts his crown on the line for the fourth time and the second in a row in his Las Vegas backyard, having seen off the challenge of former three-weight world ruler Jorge El Niño del Oro Linares in a thrilling clash in May at Mandalay Bay. The Dream now returns to the Vegas Strip for what promised to be a barn burner as his rivalry with Diaz Jr. hits boiling point. Diaz, who's 32-1-1 with 50 knockouts, claimed the WBC Interim World Lightweight title on his debut at 135 pounds, beating former world champion Javier Fortuna in one of the best performances of his 34-fight career. The 28-year-old delivered on his promise to excite at lightweight with that win and also chase the big names in the division. He now gets a chance to become a two-weight world champion, having ripped the IBF super featherweight title from Tevin Farmer in Miami back in January 2020. Good luck to them both. A little bit of information regarding a fighter out of Chile. We rarely hear fighters coming out of Chile, but here we go. The fighting pride of Chile, 29-year-old prodigy Junior La Jolla Cruzat, who's 8-0, is geared up for his ring return as the highly touted 126-pounder looks to set himself up for a regional title honor in 2022. The fight will be a triple header with Andres Campos main eventing live across South America. Cruzat, along with all Chilean boxers, have had a difficult time during the pandemic, with many stop-starts and boxing events being canceled on a moment's notice. La Jolla, who's guided by powerhouse world boxing manager Tony Tolj, discussed his ring return on December 4th. He said, "I'm so excited to be back in the ring. The COVID period has not been easy for professional boxers in Chile, but I've not stopped training and can't wait to be back and show the results that I put in the gym. On December 4th, I'll take my first step towards the next phase of professional boxing. Firstly, I get back in the ring, and I'd like to show everybody that I'm ready to challenge for regional title honors in 2022. I have to continue to show that I'm always improving, and at 20 years of age, I have lots of time on my side. I live and sleep boxing, and I will not stop until I become the first Chilean world champion. Diamonds are forever, and so is Jolla Cruzat, he says. Good luck to him. Out of Montreal, Artur Beterbiev versus Marcus Browne headlined story here. WBC IBF Unified Light Heavyweight World Champion Artur Beterbiev moved to Montreal nearly a decade ago to embark on his professional journey following a pair of Olympics for his native Russia. 16 fights into his career, he will now return to his adopted hometown for the first time as a world champion. Beterbiev, boxing's only world champion with a 100% knockout rate, will defend his world titles against WBC #1 contender and 2012 U.S. Olympian Marcus Browne on Friday, December 17th at the Bell Center in Montreal. Beterbiev-Browne will headline a loaded world title triple header streaming live and exclusively on ESPN+. It's being promoted by Top Rank and Group Yvon Michel. Beterbiev, who's 16-0 with 16 knockouts, last fought in Canada in December 2016, a first-round stoppage over Isidora Ranoni Pietro. He won the vacant IBF world title in his next fight, which he defended 2 times before unifying titles with a devastating 10th-round stoppage over longtime WBC king Alexander Gazovdik. After nearly 9 months' absence, Beterbiev returned in March with a 10-round TKO over Adam Diaz in Moscow. Browne was 24-1 with 16 knockouts, and the 30-year-old native of Staten Island defeated via unanimous decision win over 2-time world champion Badou Jack. After dropping a technical decision to Jean Pascal in August 2019, Browne returned to his winning ways in April 20th with a shutout decision over Denis Grachev. On December 17th, that's going to be a good card because we also see that Kim Clavel is going toe-to-toe against Yesenia Gómez. Light flyweight champion of the World Boxing Council, Yesenia Gómez of Mexico, will face the WBC light flyweight champion Canadian Kim Clavel on December 17th, as I said, at the Bell Center in Montreal. Clavel, who's undefeated 14-0 with 2 knockouts, will try and wrest the title from Yesenia, who's 19-5-3 with 6 knockouts, and who has held it since May of 2018. This will be her 5th defense of the title and the first time she has fought outside of Mexico. This fight will be part of the undercard where Beterbiev will defend his WBC light heavyweight crown against Marcus Browne, as I've just explained, while Marie-Eve Decoeur, who's 17-1, will face Cynthia Lozano in another female bout that looks to be pretty good too. Lozano is 9-0 with 7 knockouts. Good luck to them all. On that same night, down in Texas, we see that Eric Morales is going up against Orlando Salido. Former 4-division world champion Eric Terrible Morales and Orlando Siri Salido will face off on December 17th at the Rodeo Arena in Mesquite, Texas, in a charity exhibition match. Part of the proceeds will be used to support amateur boxing and continue carrying out Boxing Week, which aims to support women against domestic violence and children against bullying. Good for them. The promoter, the Boxing Showcase, will bring this exhibition bout to Texas turf to the delight of boxing fans and will serve as the framework for the second semifinal of the national tournament, the Big Belt Championship. Eric Terrible Morales was the first Mexican boxer to win world championships in 4 divisions: super bantamweight, featherweight, super featherweight, and super lightweight. He starred in different spectacular battles with the champion in 3 divisions, the Mexican Marco Antonio Barrera, and with the champion in 8 divisions, the Filipino Manny Pacman Pacquiao. For his part, Orlando Siri Salido starred in dramatic fights that kept the fans on the edge of their seats. He was the world featherweight and super featherweight champion and gave tremendous fights against boxers like Juan Manuel Dinamita Marquez, Yorkes Gambo, Juan Meles Lopez, Mikey Garcia, Orlando Cruz, Vasil Lomachenko, Francisco Vargas, and many others. Again, that looks to be an excellent fight and proceeds to very worthy causes. Elsewhere around the world, coming up in December, we on that Joseph Parker and Derek Teixeira 2 fight, the undercard looks to be pretty interesting. We see Joshua Buatsi will face former world title challenger Maxim Vlasov on the undercard of Joseph Parker's huge rematch with Derek Teixeira at the AO Arena in Manchester on Saturday, December 18th. And that's going to be shown on DAZN. Buatsi, who's 15-0 with 13 knockouts, scored his 10th knockout in a row when he stopped Latvia's Rekords Bolotniks in the 11th round of their WBA light heavyweight world title eliminator on the third and final week of Matchroom Fight Camp back in August. That win followed on in front of his brutal fourth-round stoppage of undefeated Frenchman Daniel Blenda dos Santos in May, and the 28 contender returns to the famous arena next month to take on his toughest challenge yet in the professional ranks. Russia's Vlasov, who's 45-4 with 26 knockouts, dropped a controversial 12-round majority decision to the USA's Joe Smith in a challenge for the vacant WBO light heavyweight world title earlier this year, and the former interim cruiser world title challenger is determined to bounce back by becoming the first man to defeat Buatsi. Also on the card, I should mention, undefeated new maiden super middleweight talent Lerone Richards, who's 15-0 with 3 knockouts, looks to build on his impressive EBU European title win against Giovanni De Carlis in May when he takes on unbeaten IBO 168-pound world champion Carlos Gongora, who's 20-0 with 15 knockouts. Gongora created history by becoming Ecuador's first ever world champion when he scored a spectacular 12th round knockout win over Kazakhstan's Ali Akhmedov last December before stopping Christopher Pearson in his maiden defense of the title on the Andrade versus Williams undercard. Good fights all around. And there's much more information on that particular card on the boxing247.com website. I encourage you to check them out. Former Universal Boxing Organization, that's the UBO, world title challenger Roberto Osiobe from Nigeria was the epitome of a prize fighter, starts the story on Boxing 247. Osiobe likely had unrecorded pro fights in Nigeria, but if we go to his box rack ledger, he only boxed outside his birth country. His first recorded fight was in Swaziland in March of 2000 against Kenyan Michael Muya, who's 5-0, who went on to win Commonwealth and UBO Intercontinental titles. Osiobe, however, won on points. He then beat Pakalimili Mobola, who at the time was 1-4 in Losito, and Johannes Ostiten, who was 11-2 in Botswana, David Kulili, who was 7-1-1 in Kenya, and Edward Delamy, who was 12-8-1, and Colin Mutsila, who's 7-5-1 at that time in South Africa, before losing in March 2003 on points to Onsorn Jotjan in Thailand, who had a record of 10-0 at that time. Later, in 2003, he traveled to Denmark, where he scored a draw against prospect Edgar Abdullah, who was 7-0 at the time. In the rematch, Osiobe was awarded a TKO injury victory, which was later overturned to a technical draw. Staying in Denmark, Osiobe was matched against world-ranked former European champion Spen Abazi, who was 28-1 at the time, only 2 weeks later, and again showed his qualities but lost a split decision. 3 months on, he drew with another Danish prospect, Martin Christiansen, who was 10-0, and despite not winning any of those 4 bouts in Denmark, he had made a name for himself in Scandinavia. Unfortunately, 3 years inactivity followed before Osiobe returned with a draw against Swedish-based Ugandan Olympian Sam Rukundo, who was 9-0. He then scored 2 routine victories, setting up a Rukundo rematch with the vacant UBO World Super Lightweight title on the line. Rukundo was the better man in the second go-round and won a deserved unanimous decision. Osiobe rebounded 3 low-profile wins in Denmark before relocating to Las Vegas in 2012. During his USA campaign, he defeated excellent opponents, Jose Hernandez, who was 13-5-1, and Jose Roman, who was 14-0-1, but also lost decisions to future world champions Yevgeny Gradovic, who was 11-1, Ranches Barthelemy, who was 15-0, and Jamel James, who was at the time 9-0. Osiobe, says Boxing 247, is one of those boxers who, had he had the right backing early on, he could have achieved much more. He was a very talented and tough competitor, and he retired with a 14-10-4 with 6 knockouts record in 2014. a nice touch on Boxing 247's part to highlight some of those fighters who aren't fighting anymore, but certainly must enjoy boxing as a lifestyle, and potentially, hopefully, managing and training new young boxers as well. Speaking of new young boxers and moving on to England, upcoming, we have Hannah Rankin versus Maria Lindberg. All eyes will be on the Tottenham Hotspur Football Club's banqueting hall this Friday night, November 5th. With one of the biggest fights in women's UK boxing this year takes center stage. History maker Hannah Rankin, who is Scotland's first ever female world champ, will attempt to become a two-time double world champion by overcoming the challenge of Sweden's Maria Lindberg for the vacant IBO and World Boxing Association World Super Welterweight titles, and that will be shown live on Fight Zone. Says, who am I quoting here? Dennis Hobson. Yes, so we all know Dennis Hobson. Dennis Hobson says, I absolutely think people are sleeping on Lindberg. And he's worked with former multiple world champions, including Ricky Hatton, David Hay, and Clinton Woods. And he continues, I have high expectations of Hannah, but I'm thinking everyone seems to be taking this as a given, and it's not. As a trade fight, this is a 50-50, and that's what people are looking past. And I don't want it to be a 50-50 fight because I obviously want Hannah to win. But it's a proper competitive fight. And so it should be, as it's for the two world titles. This is a life-changing opportunity for Maria, and she's not coming to play second fiddle. If Hannah shows any chink in her armory, then she'll struggle. This could go either way, but hopefully Hannah takes control. She's on a big stage. We've managed to get her to this opportunity, and now it's over to her. This is a proper competitive, bona fide world title contest, and it's going to be an exciting fight. Neither of them will take a backward step, and there'll be plenty of drama. I'm excited because it's the first women's world title fight I've been involved in, and to have our first women's world champion will be another breakthrough. Hannah is lovely. She's got a great story, is intelligent, and great to work with. I've made history a few times with different fighters, and if Hannah wins, it builds on our legacy and shows again just what we're capable of. So good luck to both Hannah Rankin and Sweden's Maria Lindberg. It's going to be a great fight. And that comes the night before another big fight being held in Las Vegas, where we're seeing Canelo Álvarez versus Caleb Plant. Yes, we've been waiting for this for a long time. Mexican superstar and unified WBA, WBC, WBO super middleweight world champion Canelo Álvarez and undefeated IBF super middleweight world champion Caleb Sweethands Plant previewed their historic showdown at the final press conference Wednesday, that was just yesterday, before they meet in the main event this November 6th, that's Saturday night, in a PBC event from the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. So I have a few quotes here from Canelo Álvarez first. I've faced many good fighters with skills that are similar to Caleb. It's a style that I've seen before, and I know what I want to do with it. That just gives me confidence in my experience heading into this fight. I've always trained 100% my hardest, and for the style of my opponent, I like the idea that Caleb is coming in, believing he'll win this fight. It's going to make it more exciting for the fans. My goal is to be an all-time great. I'm so proud of the journey I've taken to achieve that. I'm not going to stop until I've tried my best to reach that goal. The only thing is going through my mind, and that's winning. Everything else is outside my control. I only care about what's going to happen inside the ring Saturday night. The fact that I can make history this weekend, along with Formula One driver Sergio Checo Perez, is very motivating to me. My goal is to make this an unbelievable weekend for Mexico. Fair enough. Caleb Plant retorts, there's not much time left and not much left to say. Leading up to this fight, Canelo said that the Mexicans don't fuck around. That's good to know because where I'm from, we don't fuck around either. Make sure you tune in Saturday night. You're going to see the first undisputed super middleweight champion ever in the sport. This is history, and you're looking at him. His name is Caleb Plant. It wasn't my intention to get under Canelo's skin at the first press conference. I think the media makes more of it than we do. We've both been in worse scuffles than that. When the bell rings, it's completely different. I'm someone who likes to focus on what's in front of me. Until recently, Canelo wasn't in my weight division, so I didn't think much about fighting him. Once he came into the division, I knew it would be a huge mega fight, and here we are. I have to get the job done by any means necessary. That's what me and my team have done so far to get to this point. Whether it's boxing or in life, I haven't gotten here by any means necessary. I've had opportunities to bow out, and I haven't. I just can't wait for the bell to ring Saturday. And we can't wait either. And my friends, that's all the news fit to print today. Thank you for those headlines, courtesy of Boxing 247 across the pond. Remember to like, share, subscribe our channel, talkinfight.com, and hit that notification bell. We'll see you tomorrow.